It's 5:15. We'll call this meeting to order. If you would all please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'd like to thank all of our visitors this evening in the audience. And Diane, would you please read the school board norms?
With pleasure. The board developed norms are: decisions will be based on the board's strategic plan, its mission, and what's best for students. The board will act as stewards of tax dollars. Board members will complete foundation work to be prepared for meetings. Meetings will be efficient. All perspectives will be voiced and heard. All board members will maintain a professional decorum.
Thank you. We have nothing under public communication. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare? So moving on into the consent agenda, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Diane.
Second.
Seconded by Jason. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on into our regular meeting, we're going to start off the evening with one of our favorite things here at the board, and it is recognition. So Jason, could you, you'll start us off with fall activities. As your name is called, would you please come to the front of the room? We have a small token to give you, and then if you would please stay for a photo, we'll do sports, and then we'll do fine arts second.
Okay, thank you. And of course, we don't read a lot of names so often, so if we mispronounce something, our apologies in advance. So fall activities for cross country, we've got Megan Ford, state champion, NWDA champion, WDA all conference and all state. Gavin Hout, WDA all conference, all state. And Ben Antow, WDA all conference, all state. Football. Tom Falk, all-region, all-state. Jacob Higelman, all-region, all-state. Matt Anderson, all-region. Lawson Fry, honorable mention, all-region. And Keith Levine, honorable mention, all-region. Boys soccer, Jaden Christ, all-conference. Cale Jennison, all-conference, Valley City student. And Luca Flan, all-state, all-conference. Girls swimming and diving, Mackenzie Carlson, all-conference. Girls golf, Kyra Vogel, all-region. And volleyball, Cameron Selvig, co-senior athlete of the year, all-state, all-conference, and all-tournament. Grace Hagerly, all-state, all-conference, all-tournament. And Ella Rolson, all-conference. Congratulations to all of our Fall Athletic Award recipients.
Good job, James.
Okay, moving on. We have the North Dakota American Choral Directors Association 7 through 9 Mixed Honors Choir. Anya McDermott, Kendra Dawson, Cameron Edwards, Logan Motter, Paris Nickham, Brandon Nordstrom, Tyler Peel, and Zach Holben was alternate. So our next group is the NDA-CDA 7 through 9 Treble Honor Choir, which is February 7th and 8th in Grand Forks. Lillian Cordell. And the North Dakota American Choral Directors Association Women's Honor Choir, and that's also in Grand Forks. Annika Tweeten, Megan Ray, Sophia Serwinski, Caroline Kaiser, Alexis Smith, Sadie Meisner, Katie Sukow, Maya Nordstrom, Sierra Saylor. The UND Mixed Honor Choir, Katie Sukow, Ryan Wells, Caden Schmidt, and Brandon Weatherly. The UND Treble Honor Choir, Zofia Serwinska, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, I apologize. Annika, was it? Pretty good? Pretty good? Okay, good, thank you. Thank you. Annika Tweeten, Mia Nordstrom, and Sierra Saylor. The UND Honors Orchestra, Kimberly Wyans, Valerie Wywoody. The Regional ACDA Honors Choir, 10 State Area, Katie Sukow, Annika Tweeten, and Ryan Wells. I'd like to congratulate all of you and these fantastic honors. Appreciate it.
Get as close as you need to.
The second item underneath our recognition is that of Mr. Bill Nelson. Unfortunately, he's off doing what he does best and spending time with children, and so he couldn't come tonight, but we do want to recognize him. The board would like to recognize Mr. Bill Nelson, who was honored at the North Dakota SHAPE Conference, which is a Physical Education Teacher of the Year. Mr. Nelson is recognized leader in the district through his demonstrated compassion for students, willingness to improve himself as a professional, and desire to provide the best possible educational and extracurricular experience for his students. And we thank Mr. Nelson for everything that he does. So then we'll go ahead and move on. We have nothing under correspondence, and so we'll move into reports. Do we have a student council report this evening? Oh, hello, come on up.
Alrighty, hi. For those of you who don't remember, my name is Jess Chandler. I'm the student body president at Jamestown High School. I actually have quite a bit to talk about. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with the papers, but we've been doing some new projects. Just to start off, last week we went to our state student council convention. We had a junior, Lauren Hibble, who ran for president. She ran on a platform of community involvement, which is kind of close to home with all of the things that we're doing. Other than that, we just listened to some great speakers, and we had a fun time at the convention, and we got back on Tuesday. The other thing that we've been planning is called Stuff the Civic. It's kind of modeled after the Fargo's Philadome. Certainly the biggest project that we have done so far, aside from Homecoming and Snow Week. It's all new territory for us. We're not marketing or publicity experts, so starting a website or getting the paper and the radio, it's all new, but it's really fun, and hopefully we started a tradition that will hopefully keep us going throughout several years from now. It's a little hard to get support this first year, but hopefully in the following years, with more time and more knowledge about the event, we'll get some more support with that. Basically what the event is, I should probably describe this. So what we're doing is it's a massive community food drive where we get businesses, schools, however many organizations that we can to be involved in this food drive. And what we're doing is we set up drop-off locations throughout town. That main one, including Hugo's, I think is hopefully going to be our main one. And then the high school, we have one at the high school as well. And we are and the central office, yes, yeah. And then there's a whole list, and we set up a website, and it's all on there. And we'll just take any food donations there. People have been giving us monetary donations. Maybe they don't have time to go pick up some food, so we'll go to Walmart and we'll buy however much food we can. And then on the 20th, which is this Friday, we will be taking all of these food. We'll be assigning committees, and one of the committees will be collecting all this food and bringing it to the Civic Center, and we will hopefully get people that come by and, you know, maybe after work or whatever and want to just drop off, and we have some schools who want to help us too, and then we'll be kind of stuffing the Civic, basically, and then at the end of that day, we will take it, and if we have time, if not, we can do it throughout the next week. We will be taking them and distributing them to the food pantries around Jamestown and all of that. So it'll be really fun. We're excited for it. Certainly something that we've never done before, so it's all unique, and we're really excited for it. The only other project that we have going on is hopefully at the end of January, we're doing what's called Raising Student Voice and Participation. It's called RSVP. It's a program that I learned through my state student council position. And basically what it's about is basically, you know, as students, we sit in classrooms and we observe so many people complaining and, you know, and they never take action on their comments that they have about the school. And we'll put them in a positive environment where they can make any comments and changes that they want to, you know, observe around the school. And then we think about positive ways to change that and then get involved in our community and, you know, basically teaching them how to be citizens. So, yeah, we're really excited for that. That's hopefully going to be at the end of January. Any questions about all these?
Well, you certainly have a lot going on. Diane?
I did see your picture on the front page of the paper, so that was really great.
Yeah.
My question was, did the young lady that ran for president?
No, she did not make it on the state student council board.
Any other questions? Well, thank you.
Just a comment, maybe?
Yep, Dr. Leck.
Just wanted to commend you on how well you articulate what's happening at the high school. It's an important
Thank you.
Aspect of what the board does, and we appreciate that you're here and that you so articulate what's happening. So we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And we always appreciate you coming. And this was a big report. And
Yeah.
good luck.
Thank you.
And we want to hear all about the successes in January.
Thank you. Yes, I will report on that then.
All right.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
guys.
Thank you. So we'll move on into our reports to the auditor's report. We'll have Linda Moen come forward, please.
Hello. Hopefully I won't spend too much time on the audit report. I'm going to start on page 1, which is our independent auditor's report. It lays out what we have audited, which are the financial statements of Jamestown Public School District for the year ended June 30, 2019.
Linda, I apologize. I have to give a quick little update. It was just added to the drive right before the meeting, so you may have to
I do have,
re-up your computer. My apologies, Linda, for
I have
that.
3 copies, and then I have that letter. Sure. So does, I guess I just sent it to a PDF copy this morning to Sally, so. Okay. Top of page 2 is where we express our opinion that these financial statements present fairly the financial position of Jamestown Public School as of June 30, 2019, and for the year then ended. Going on to management's discussion and analysis, and this is a brief synopsis of the information that you will find in the full financial statements. It's the only place that you're going to find comparative numbers where we compare June 30, 2019 to June 30, 2018. The numbers that are in here are what we call the government-wide financial statements. They include all the assets of Jamestown School and all of the liabilities. So on page 5, the total assets as of June 30, 2019 is $39,498,238, compared to $42,991,238 $94,822 the prior year. Total liabilities, $36,098,653 compared to $36,693,853 for the prior year. The net position, as of June 30, 2018, the net position is just the difference between the assets and the liabilities. It was $3.4 million. For June 30, 2019, that current net position is $801,000. And the biggest change there is probably going to be the change in the pension liabilities. So I'll touch on that a little bit later. Bottom of page 6 to the top of page 7, we have the revenues compared as of June 30, 2019, $30.8 million, a slight decrease from the previous year of $30.9 million. Total expenses, $33.4 million compared to $32.8 million. So that's your overall change, again, in the government-wide financial statements, a decrease of $2.6 million. Compared to the prior year, a decrease of $1.9 million. There's just some additional detail in here. I won't spend a lot of time on that. Going on to page 11, this would be the detailed statement of net position. There is one column for Jamestown Public School, and then the component unit column, that is James Valley information as far as assets, liabilities, etc. You will see the breakdown under the liabilities. I will take you to lower part of the liabilities. The net pension obligation for TFFR is $26.2 million. And the net pension obligation under PERS is $5.4 million. So you'll see that those numbers, and those of course have an impact on the government-wide financial statements as far as how they impact the bottom line. On page 12, this is a statement of activities. We start with the expenses for Jamestown Public School for June 30, 2019. We apply against that those revenues that can be directly assigned to those programs, and we come up with a net expense of $28.6 million. And then if you follow that column down below it, the general revenues are applied overall, and that is a total of about $26 million. So that's where the decrease in the net position of $2.6 million is. Like I said, government-wide, all assets, all liabilities. Now we will get to page 13. This is the fund basis of accounting. These are the numbers that you will see on a regular basis at your meetings. We have the general fund, all of the other funds. So total assets for those funds is $7.2 million. The liabilities, $2.2 million. And then below that, we have the about $311,000. Those are the uncollected taxes that have not yet been collected from the county. And then the fund balance, again, the difference between assets and liabilities, $4.7 million for as of June 30, 2019. Page 14. 14 just reconciles how do we get from the assets and liabilities on the statement of net position, which is government-wide, to the fund balance that we show on the previous page. And these are just the items that we either have to add to or subtract from those statements. Page 15, statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. You will see that the total revenues as of June 30, 2019, $30.8 million. total expenditures 31.5. So an overall on the fund basis decrease of 682,000. And you will see probably the biggest amount of that, if you look at the debt service fund, that generated 139,000 of that change, and the capital projects 479,000. So that's the biggest numbers that make up that change in the fund balance. Page 16 is again just a reconciliation of the statement of activities to the revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. We've got some additional statements in here for the internal service fund, the fiduciary fund. I'll skip over that. Going to the notes to the financial statement starting on page 21. Most of this is what I consider boilerplate information, required disclosures that we must include, and they generally don't change a lot from year to year. I will go to page 32. Shows you the change in the capital assets from the previous year. You will see that land and improvements increased by 112,000. Equipment went up by 503,000. And then we took off some old equipment that had a basis of 235,000. So that shows you the change in the capital assets from June 30, 18 to June 30, 19, 25.7 to 24.9. We also include detailed information in here on James Valley. If you want to go to the bottom of page 33 and the top of page 34, this would be your long-term obligations. So you will see the bonds and the lease balances as of June 30, 18, what was paid off. The balance as of June 30, 19 went from 1.6 million to 1.3 million. And then the next part on the top of page 34, these are all the other liabilities of the school, the compensated absences, the obligation under PERS, TFFR, OPEB liability, which is a retired health care credit. So you'll see a couple of the biggest numbers. PERS went from 27.4, that actually decreased to 26.2, and TFFR went from 4.9 to 5.4. So, and of course those changes get reflected in the change in the activity statement for the year. I won't dwell on any of that information. I will take you to the schedule of federal financial awards on page 59. And you will see here that Jamestown School overall received $2.5 million in federal awards. And because of that, we do file what we consider a single audit with the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. We are required to do letters on internal control and compliance under government auditing standards. And the only finding that we do have is a continuing ongoing one. That would be on the bottom of page 55. And it's a finding that we first put in here in 2015, and the finding is simply that Jamestown School does not prepare its own financial statements. And that has been the only finding that we had, both under the government auditing standards and the audit over the major federal financial awards. I went through that kind of quickly, but if there are any questions,
Thank
we
you.
are available to answer anything.
Thank you, Linda. Board, Heidi, did you have a question? Oh, you're good? Oh, nope, I don't. I was just going to comment that if you sign out of your agenda and you go back in, the file is now uploaded to link with the agenda, so you can review it a little bit more easily for you. Heidi?
So based on your audit, we're in good standing and doing everything we're supposed to do correctly. That's right.
Correct.
Thank you.
And if you do have a chance to take a little closer look at it, I'm always available to answer questions.
Just to follow up, so
Yes.
really the debt liabilities that increase comes mostly from our building,
and TFFR.
Our retirement liabilities, as well as some of the deferred, the maintenance kind of building kind of things too that you had mentioned, the capital project stuff.
Right.
So, okay, thank you.
Correct. And it's just not something that I think provides a whole lot of information for the school district, because the intent is you put it in here because it would ultimately be a liability of the school, but that would be under the assumption that North Dakota PERS or TFFR would go under. And we would hope that that would not happen.
Yeah. And just for those that are listening, my original question was related to the liability of TFFR and PERS listed on the audit. That is a requirement 4 years ago, 3 years, something of that nature. It's a recent requirement.
We've been putting it in there for about the last 5 years.
Yeah. So it's a GASB requirement
Correct.
that's posted and listed as a district liability.
Correct.
And again, that's, whether it actually is a liability or not is a different question, but
Right.
that is a requirement to post those on every school district audit.
That's correct.
That has a liability to the district.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay. Oh, Sally?
I just want to thank Linda and her crew for, they come in and they do such a nice job. And so I just want to thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Sally. It's always a pleasure to work with you and your staff. Thank you.
Heidi?
And I just wanted to make sure I disclose my sister works as part of Shower and Associates, as I say every year. But I just want to make sure that is disclosed. And she does not work on the audit because when I serve on the board, she's not able to. But I just want to make sure that is disclosed to the board and everyone else. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Can I have a motion to approve the auditor's report? Motion by Melissa. Second by Jason. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on, we will be moving the fall activities report from Mr. Roldson. He had a last-minute conflict that he could not miss, so we will be moving that report to January. So then, moving on then to the superintendent's report. Dr. Leck.
So I will be I'll run through, you have the written report already, just touching on a few items that are not already on our agenda. The school board self-assessment part of the strategic plan outlined that you had requested for me to create a school board self-assessment. We focused on two different types of questions. One, what the collective board, how the collective board operates, and then also some questions on individually as board members, you do this, or you view yourself doing or perceive this. And so the questions across those 6 areas of effective governance, you can take a look at those. President Schmidt and I have been working through those questions and ensuring that it kind of covers everything that the expectation is that it covers. So we have that online survey. It is linked into my report. You can take that at any time. I would ask that you do it by the end of this month. We are going to take that information. I will compile it and provide a breakdown for the board at the board retreat. And I will give you kind of that high level, these are the trends, this is what we see, and then any numeric breakdowns that are pertinent based on what the results find. When I looked at it, I felt it took about 15 to 20 minutes to complete. So please make sure that you do that so we can have that information to review. This will be extremely important, I think, to the board as you look to reassess those board norms and recreate board norms. This will be helpful information as you go through that process. I wanted to touch a little bit on the communications committee. Mrs. Giesler, Mrs. Rohrs, Dr. Larson, and I serve on that communications committee. It's been really great. I've felt like it has been a a very good process, one that includes, really not about admiring the problem, more along the lines of, looking to be solutions oriented. Let's address some issues and talk through, and why is this the way it is, or hey, we have this problem, how can we find a solution to it? It's been very good, very engaging, a lot of open dialogue. I very much appreciated the process, and I want to recognize all those individuals that participate in that, because I think it's been very, very good so far, and I appreciate it. Some of the policy items that you will address later that I think are just important that we bring up. Exhibit 8 for policy FGA, usually we do that in July. If you remember, it's part of our consent agenda. It is an aspect of policy, although we don't have to approve exhibits. This is one that includes the data that we send, or the third-party vendors that receive data. It's a state law, and it's housed in an exhibit for policy FGA, so it's FGA E8. And we asked our Teacher Leadership Academy to review that and make sure that we weren't missing any vendors, and they found some that we felt that we needed to include in there, and so we're asking for that then to be reapproved to make sure that it's accurate and it's up to date. Related to ACBC, that policy, you'll have an updated policy there. We wanted to include a few very passionate individuals in our district have been working on therapy dogs and how we can include therapy dogs into the curriculum, especially at the elementary level. And so that team of people, Eddie Delzer, Sherry Schmidt, Heidi Badeau, Mike Romans, we empowered them to look at policies across the state and to amend our policy for consideration amongst the board. And Mr. Romans has asked if there would be interest, that he would be happy to talk about therapy dogs at a future board meeting if that is so desired for board education. But I wanted to bring that up. I'm very much supportive. I think they've done a good job with looking through regulations, certifications, all the different requirements that would be in place for something like that for therapy dogs. And I think, and I guess I'm moving forward to recommend that policy update. With that, I think I have everything else is on the agenda. I would stand for questions if you have any.
Any questions regarding the superintendent's report? Okay. Thank you, Dr. Lex. So now we will move on into board education. We'd like to welcome Mr. Mark Wagner to our meeting this evening, and he'll be talking to us about the state visioning process for the James Valley Career and Tech Center. Welcome.
It's coming. Well, thank you, and thank you for having me to share about career and technical education. Oops, I think I probably hit it and shut it off again. There we go, it's coming. Sorry. Darby did just hand out the report. We just noticed that, as you noticed, we do know it's a Jamestown Middle School. I will talk to Bonnie, although we maybe feel that somebody is worthy of being named, but that's strictly a local decision as far as naming your middle school after that instructor. So we will get that taken care of. I'll talk to Bonnie as soon as we get back and get you a corrected one. But this is an opportunity to review the evaluation process and share the info, the types of items that we go through. I like to call it a program vision visit. For years, we've called it a 5-year evaluation. Now, that stigma we want to get away from that stigma, that signal, that impression that it gives. Yes, there is 12 standards that we need to follow and do to take a look at and review, but we're really here to find out where those programs are heading and where that vision is. See if I'm going to run this. The North Dakota State Board states that quality, accessibility, responsiveness, and commitment to the continuous improvement will be trademarks for North Dakota's career and technical education system. So we have the commitment. It's also federal Carl Perkins legislation. It's also the State Board for Career and Technical Education policy. But the real reason that we come out and discuss career and tech ed and do these vision visits is we're here to help. Try to help you to get to where you want to be, whether it be financially, whether it be other resources, things that we can try to get you to that next level. Putting student learner success first, a shared vision for the future of career technical education, which is supported by 12 national organizations, calls for a reimagined educational system where all learners have access to high quality experiences that put them on a path to career success. The vision boldly challenges the status quo and calls for a transformation of the education system, while also defining CTE's role in igniting and achieving this goal, anchored in 5 interrelated and equally important principles. One would be all career technical education programs are held to highest standards of excellence. All learners are empowered to choose a meaningful education and career. All learning is personable and flexible, and all learning is facilitated by knowledgeable experts, and all systems work together to put that learner success first. We want to connect the classroom to careers. We want to build that strong relationship between competency-based pathways and career technical education and prepare students for a project-based world. Connects the learners at secondary and post-secondary levels with employers. Let's talk a little bit about what the State Department does. I'm the Assistant State Director. Evaluations is one of the portfolios that falls under my duties. The other major one is Carl Perkins, the federal legislations. We'll talk a little bit about that. But we review and evaluate CTE programs. We do new teacher visits. Our supervisors go out and visit every new teacher at least once, or excuse me, at least twice, once in the fall and then once later on to help them as they grow into their area of being a CTE teacher. We help determine the equipment and facility needs, provide that performance data on CTE students. We do curriculum recommendations, and we also do curriculum frameworks. We do professional development. You're familiar with the transition to teaching, I believe, because you have some individuals that have been through that. Clinical practice, that's for the post-secondary instructors. Transition to teaching is somebody that doesn't have necessarily a teaching degree. Traditionally comes out of the business industry, although that's changing some now. And then they have the knowledge and the skills, but they need the pedagogy of doing the teaching. Clinical practice, as I said, is for post-secondary. We also do teacher training and certification. In the IT area would be one area, for example, where we do some certifications. And then emerging technology consortiums, where schools or area centers get together and they rotate equipment. Lots of grants that are available. Grants for Innovation, Regional STEM Days for Students, Russell and Helen Sands Public High School Education Fund, STEM. All that information is on our webpage if you're interested in that. Want to spend just a little bit of time visiting with you about administrating the Strengthening CTE for the 21st Century Act, or Perkins 5 as we know it. There's going to be some changes in our federal legislation. The biggest one is the local applicants are going to complete a comprehensive local needs assessment and update it at every 2 years. The intent of that CLNA is to provide local school districts and consortiums guidance on how to spend their Perkins allocation. It provides opportunities to not only dive into student data, but also analyze labor market information at the local, regional, and state levels to determine if CTE programs align with workforce needs. The CLNA, if done with purpose, should engage stakeholders and develop partnerships and help develop a path for CTE in your community. Must be completed when initially submitting a local application and at least once every 2 years. Key areas that must be addressed: student performance, including subpopulations, size, scope, and quality of programs, labor market alignment, and programs of study implementation progress, and then improving educator recruitment, and then strategies for special populations. The second element is the evaluation of program quality in 2 parts. First, the programs offered, are they sufficient size, scope, and quality, which will be provided in the guidance. There won't be a lot of change from past years. And the other part, the second part of it is alignment with in-demand industry sectors and occupations. The data will be provided at the state and regional levels. The local applicant must engage with local employers to identify work needs that are not identified by North Dakota. The third part that I'd like to talk about is the workplace experience. You're probably familiar with co-op, co-op classes, and those. There is the traditional work-based learning opportunities. That's going to be one of our indicators. And there's also what we call a simulated workplace experience. That would be an example of like school store, building a house, the construction students, where they're getting some of the actual workplace experiences. That primarily is the three major items as far as Perkin 5 that I wanted to explain to you. Is there any questions? Feel free at any time to interrupt me if you need to. Let's talk a little bit about the timeline. In October, we submitted a draft plan to a group of national peer reviewers for input. We did get input, which was valuable stuff. In November, we had a rollout of the draft Perkins Consortium restructure plan for comment. That went away, so it's going to pretty much stay the same way as before. The groups that we talked to felt that would be the best way, is just to keep it as is. And now December, the state plan will be published. I think it maybe went out today, if not tomorrow, for public comment, and then we'll take comment through the month of January, and that'll be through Zoom meetings. Also, you can come to the Capitol if you want to, but there's 4 dates that have been selected: the 8th, January 8th, 13th, 14th, and 16th. The 13th is at 7 p.m. Otherwise, those other ones are during the day, but we wanted one at least 7 p.m. if there's people that couldn't get there or get into a Zoom meeting due to work. February, as I mentioned, the comments will close and then provide the state plan to the governor's office for review. We anticipate and hope that he will sign it. He does not have to, but we would like to have his approval on that, and then provide a final state plan to the State Board for Career and Technical Education. CTE does give learners an academic foundation with technical skills and hands-on experience to help them get ready for real world, and a graduate who's career, college, and community ready. Let's talk about the evaluation process. This is one of 10 team program vision visits this year. They are broken into different categories. As you can see, we do post-secondary, we do career and technical centers, comprehensive high schools, we're 4 or more occupational, 3 or less occupational programs, or non-occupational, 3 or less. You can call it good timing or bad timing. They'll probably say bad timing, but the directors, their first year, right off the bat, they have a 5-year evaluation. Just the term, when you say 5-year evaluation, makes people a little nervous, and we try to put them at ease, but they did a great job, and they lived through it so far, so we're happy to see that. These are the schools that we were at this year. We are finished. We just finished with Bismarck State College. We tried to get done by December due to the weather, but as you know, Jamestown, we didn't quite beat that. We always get caught once. Last year was Grand Forks. This year was here. But we try to get done early. So you can see we've been to 2-year technical colleges, to the centers, and then the high schools that we've been to, and then the 3 or less occupational program high schools that we've been to. I'm not a huge fan of traveling across the state of North Dakota, but this is by far my favorite part of my position, because you get to see the things that are going on. And as one of my former employers told me, he said, take some time and smell the roses, and that's fun when you come like to Jamestown. You get a chance to smell some of the roses and see what's going on. So it's intense, but it's also very enjoyable to go. The evaluation process is a self-program evaluation review that is done by all the administrators, counselors, and instructors. The on-site evaluation review consists of an overview of program standards, self-review. I'll spend a little more time on each of these. And then we do a 15-minute exit review with the instructor, administration, and supervisor. And then we send an online survey for participants' response for the overall process. Within 30 days, the school institution will receive a written report from the Department of Career and Technical Education. The self-program evaluation review, that's before we ever get here. It's done. This would be an example of the questionnaire. This is an example of the Standard 1 questions. It's based on 12 standards. On-site evaluation review consists of an overview of that program standards, self-review with the staff, 12 standards with 75 indicators. They describe the program's strengths and improvement opportunities for each standard. I'll just review these real quickly. If you have questions, feel free to stop me and I'll try to explain. But the Standard 1 is instructional planning and organization, designed to develop knowledge and skills essential in a career field. Is it organized, implemented in a sequential manner? Is it provide that articulation or dual credit? Second one, instructional materials utilization. Is there adequate amounts of current materials? Does it address individual student needs? The instructor personnel, does it meet or exceed those state licensure credentials in a teaching field? Do they upgrade their knowledge and skills through professional development or additional work experience in a timely manner? Enrollment and student-teacher ratio. Minimum enrollments requirements are met for funding. Maximum enrollment is related to number and kinds of students. We always get that question, what's the maximum number of students in a CTE course? Well, that really depends. Let's use welding as an example. If you have 12 welding booths, it's pretty tough for you to have 24 students. But if you have 12 welding booths, you easily can have 12 students in that lab. So it just depends upon the situation, as long as it's taught in a safe, efficient, effective manner. Equipment and supplies, does it support the instructional plan? Is it representative of industry and meets and exceeds the safety? Instructional facilities, the adequate space, is it safe? Does it meet ADA? Safety and sanitation is number 7. OSHA standards, safety and sanitation training, is it incorporated and implemented? 8 and 9 is program advisory committee and community relations. Each program is required to have a advisory committee and meet twice a year. Does it have the right representation? Is that input obtained for development, updating, and implementation of programs to meet those needs? Leadership development opportunities. All the programs need to have a leadership component to it. We feel the easiest way is the CTSOs. There's other ways of doing that. I'll talk about that later. Workplace experience or cooperative learning, which I mentioned a couple different options upcoming with Perkins 5. And then special population, or those services provided to those special pops, academic, social, and emotional supports. And number 12 is educational equity. All learners can succeed to the best of their abilities without regard to the gender, race, color, national origin, religion, age, or disability. Questions thus far? I will keep going. The review will consist of accommodations, strengths of the program. We know there's lots of good things going on in Jamestown and James Valley Career Tech Center, and we want to recognize that when we come out to look. Suggestions, when there's an opportunity to suggest a different way to accomplish the desired outcome, someone different looking at it, a new set of eyes. Our supervisors see lots and lots of programs in one year, and there's some things that a lot of times an instructor won't even notice because it's maybe been there for a long time, and we just try to make suggestions. Opportunities that can improve the program, nothing that they have to do, just suggestions. And last is the recommendations. Requirements to fulfill the intent of the law policy. A lot of times it's a safety issue. Things such as that falls into the Perkins Law that we have to abide by. This is an example of the program evaluation report. It's maybe a little tough for you to see, but the quality indicators up there on the different 12 quality indicators, the combinations, the suggestions, and then the recommendations. If a program area receives a recommendation, the school institution completes a plan of action with 90 days from the issuing date of a written report to us. Basically, that plan of action is what is it, who's going to do it, and when's it going to be done. That's an example of a plan of action. As you can see, not all of them in this example. Up there, agriculture didn't have any. Business and office tech, none. I believe it's family and consumer sciences. Had some suggestions. It's an improvement model we use. How do we improve? How can we help that process and best practices? I'll share with you, as I share with the staff, is that we evaluate programs, not personnel. Yes, we know that a lot of times the great programs are due to an instructor, a good instructor, but that's somebody else's job to review that. As far as the evaluation that we did here, as you can see, the administration, we have some guest evaluators that came in. The ag education, business education, career development, family and consumer sciences, administration. Krista Brodina came. She's the CTE director from Lake Area Career and Tech Center. Special Pops, Deb Huber. Trade and industry, technical health sciences, auto collision. This gentleman from Bismarck Career Academy. Auto tech, Southeast region. Building trades was Cheyenne Valley. Health science was a lady from Fargo, and machine tooling was Rick Ross from Valley City. Let's talk a little bit about the review team findings. I'll just highlight a little bit. You have the report in front of you for detail, but I just want to touch on some of them. I want to commend James Valley Career and Tech Center and Jamestown Public Schools Board of Education Administration and staff for commitment for career and technical education. Not all communities have an area career and tech center. You're to be commended to have that in place. That is a benefit for your students and area students. Commend on the commitment of giving the students the capability of qualifying for the state CTE scholarship. We don't see that everywhere we go, but these items are in place where they can get their enough credits where they will qualify for that state CTE scholarship. Thank you. Providing hands-on career-oriented opportunities for the students served. CTE instructors and counselors have an opportunity for professional development activities. The instructors traditionally attend that fall state PDC CTE conference that we have every fall in Bismarck. Instructors, counselors, and administration are certified, qualified, and licensed. Class size and student-teacher ratios are appropriate. Let me continue on with some accommodations. The facilities promote an inviting, proper learning environment. Will just share with you, I know the directors are new, but when I walked into that facility, I noticed right away that not only were the Jamestown students recognized, but the member schools students also were recognized. They had a bulletin board where it welcomed and had highlights on them. It made them realize that they were welcome and very inviting, and thank them for doing that and making those students feel like they're part of that Career and Tech Center, which they are. The facilities are accessible and there's adequate space for the courses. Advisory committees are active and meet the required 2 times per year, and student leadership opportunities are available through membership in FFA and Skills USA. Talk about some suggestions. When looking at expanding course offerings and existing programs and adding new, ask that trend data is used in making a data-driven decision in the appropriate career clusters. That would lead to the alignment and support in their corresponding career pathways. Increase storage when and where it's become available to help in the organization of appropriate needed program areas, and continue to look at ways to increase participation and expand those CTE student organization opportunities. And need to look at future curriculum plans and course offerings, consider sequential learning. The addition of a CTRE position to the center will be useful in addressing the issue of support for special population students. And with an outstanding experience in tech and engineering education in 8th grade, the district should explore adding a high school program. Again, these are suggestions. We know that it may take a while, it may never happen, it's just some things that they've observed. And then provide an opportunity for students to obtain industry-recognized safety training. Those funding opportunities are available through Perkins fundings if it's offered to all the students. Let's talk about recommendations. There's only 5 program areas with any recommendations. You are to be commended for that. That's not very usual that we come and all these programs and 5. Some of them are very easy. Some of them I think have probably already been fixed in the plan, but safety storage cabinet, student leadership opportunities. We'd like to see some more of those created. Data, Perkin 5 will be based more on data, so your member school's data needs to be accurate. That's already been taken care of. That's pretty standard for all the ones that we've done this year, just because the emphasis will be there. And transition to teaching, instructor needs in order to fully certify, and then equipment accessible to special populations students. That's in one program area with some instruction regarding the IEP 504 and making some of those accommodations to those equipment if a student would happen to come in that would need that. Don't have to do it until somebody comes in that needs that, but you need to have a plan in place, which there will be. I'm not even worried about that. Just kind of ending with the commitment to quality North Dakota career and technical education programs. We want the state, again, our purpose is programs that provide those needed learning and innovative skills, life skills, programs that enhance the 4 C's, critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, and communication skills. Again, remember our goal is to help you, to accomplish, to have those classes, those programs. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to come out and visit about the vision program process that we are doing. I'm open for questions. I'll do my best to answer.
Thank you, Mr.
We still got a
Wagner.
few of you that are still here. That's good.
Yeah, we do, and we're still on the phone too. Yeah, we are still here. So this program changed a little bit. You were saying how it went from a 5-year to like the vision. Is that so? This is also, we have new leaders at the helm, and then it's a little bit of a new process too.
Yes.
That's very good. I appreciate the in-depth look of how, notifying some strengths, and what you said there were lots of strengths, and then identifying some improvement areas. Could you say a little bit more about the 5, like as a whole, that's the whole building, the 5 improvement, is that what that, on your slide there, you had the 5 separate things with that?
The recommendations are from different programs.
And so does that cover all of CTE?
All of the programs that we were here to visit, yes.
So 5, wow, that's really fantastic.
That's very impressive.
I'm glad to hear that, and I appreciate you reinforcing that you're here to help, because we recognize that. Thank you. And Jason?
So as I'm reading the plan of action, the recommendations are more of the stronger nudge to do these because they might be law-related or
Yes.
whatnot. And then the suggestions would be, from your perspective, what we should do to reach the next level.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly, Jason.
perfect. Hi, Roger. So I just want to make sure that we're comfortable with administration-wise, that we're comfortable and we're able to provide what we need to as a board to see these suggestions, take shape. And then I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
Okay, I'm used to that. This is
Could
actually
you-
pretty easy compared to legislatures, to be honest
Okay.
with you.
If you could you identify from your perspective, our greatest strength and our greatest area of improvement that you see?
Greatest strength, and you are putting me on the spot, I'd say the greatest strength is you have an area career and tech center. And that in itself is just at a higher rate of funding. Rather than a comprehensive high school 27%, you can start out with 40%, and if you offer it some other students through alternate means, you get an extra 4%, so you can work your way up. Weakness, I would say that there's some work to be done with those area schools to increase that. There's what, 3, 4? 3 right now, and that's the minimum.
And is that addressed anywhere in here? I didn't look, but,
We didn't, I don't think it's put in your guys' suggestions, did we? Yeah,
okay.
we discussed
Okay,
it, but
that's fine.
because you're meeting the requirements. Yeah.
I would say we had a great conversation about it.
Yes.
When you and I met, and we did talk about the desire to reach out, and I know I've had conversations with Mr. Gaylor, Mr. Heinert about the same thing, wanting to see what kind of opportunities there can be. Now, of course, a lot of area schools, as we know, have already connected to area centers if they do, but I think there's certainly more opportunities there that we want to capture. So I would agree with that.
And we've talked about doing some alternate methods as far as instruction.
Heidi?
I was glad, I read through the whole report, and I was glad to see that in each area, there's some, I would say, more advancements that we're looking to make and move toward to probably bring us more up to date on things. And I did notice in your recommendations, suggestions, there's a lot of budget items, dollar amounts, that would be attached to some of those things. But I also appreciated our administrators it looked like in some of the programs, they're pairing up with some industries also, like in the ag area, to kind of help make it happen and make it work. And so I appreciate their work in that. And I'm excited to see the direction of our CTE and in the areas of technology and those kinds of things, which always there's always a cost to some of that, but I appreciate that we are, in each area, it looked like we were looking at making some advancements, improvements were in the works.
And we get that. That's why there's suggestions, because the next first thing is Dr. Leck would say, well, how much more money can you provide? And that's when we have to, not necessarily any more money, so. Okay. But Perkins 5 will require it to be more industry business industry connections. I mean, you're going to have that CLNA is going to have to be tied into that. I mean, if you're offering a health science course, of course I picked that one because we all know there's lots of needs, but let's say if there wasn't any needs in Jamestown, but there wasn't statewide, that'd be an opportunity for your students to go and have a career in health science in that area. So it's not like, if there isn't any specific ones in that area, it's also regional and also statewide if you're providing those courses and programs for those students.
Very good. Any other comments or questions? Thank you so much for traveling in this December day. We got a little bit of warmness to it anyway.
Yeah, actually it's pretty nice.
It was pretty good. Did Mr. Heinert or Mr. Gaylor want to add anything to Mark this evening?
I think Mr. Heinert had given you a copy of our draft version addressing the recommendations, which is, of course, where everybody goes to right away. And then, obviously, we've got lots of things in the works with the suggestions and bringing this perspective, I think, broadly so that you guys know as those things come forward that this is based on the guidance that we're getting and our vision that we're developing and working alongside our staff, and appreciate Mark's comments, and we know that there's work to be done, and appreciate Mr. Heinert's leadership over at the CTC as well. That's been a great partnership moving this forward. So thank you guys for your support on that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. A lot of exciting stuff going on, James. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Mark. All right, so I did just want to give a quick update that we did have a board member need to leave to make it to a holiday program, and we do have still 2 board members on the phone. We have Steve Veldkamp is on the phone, and also Roger Houter on the phone, so we can continue on with our meeting with having a quorum. So moving on, under board education, we will move to number 2, the process for the hot lunch balances. Dr. Leck.
Thank you. And you do have a written board memo that outlines this process too. But really, we've had, probably in recent weeks, a lot of interest in this area. And I wanted to take this opportunity really to outline the process that we have put in place a number of years ago. And, you know, I think what the volume of questions shows is there's a great deal of passion and to all of our students, and to make sure that our students have what they need. And I think people understand the role that poverty plays in our society, and I think it also recognizes the role that the rest of us serve in supporting students. And so we wanted to make sure that this is a process that's fully understood. A few points to bring out. We have in recent years adopted a food service counselor fund, and that's important for 2 different reasons. One, so it's this fund created specifically from community donations to support students in poverty. Beyond the food service, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, it also funds the 2 food pantries we have in our district. Those are located at Jamestown Middle School and located at the Jamestown High School. It is important to note that because of how we have allocated our counselors, all schools have access to the high school or middle school through those counselors, and they do access and provide really hundreds of pounds of food to needy families every single month. It has been an outstanding addition to our district, and I couldn't be happier or more proud of the counselors for the work that they've done in this area. And really, we talk about students, but it's actually accessible to any family in our community. If they would want to be in touch with a counselor, that they would have access to that. The revenue generated by this fund since its inception in 1718 is around $7,700. The expenses have been around $2,100, and so there's obviously a balance there of $5,600. So I think it shows a lot of commitment from our community. And I've already had people ask me this today: how can I support this program? And really, supporting this fund is as simple as a phone call to Shelley Mack at Food Service or to Sally Ost at Central Office, and you can support that fund as well. And it, like I said, it goes to 2 areas: helping students in poverty for food service, but also for our food pantries. Now, there is, generally speaking, not a cost to the food pantry. A lot of the items we get through Great Plains are provided at no cost. There are items, though, lunch meat, peanut butter, things of that nature that we do get it's a discounted rate, but it is a cost. And so these funds are used to support that. And so we can make sure that we have a pantry stocked with items that students and families want. So again, an absolutely tremendous program, a great asset to the community, a great asset to our students. So getting back into the food service and the lunch balances, we know we've heard a lot about having that threshold of $15 in a negative lunch account and what that transpires. I think the important thing for policymakers to understand is the process that really goes into all of this. So each Monday, cashiers run a roster of accounts with a negative balance over $15. So that happens, similar to eligibility, happens once a week. So if you are negative $15 the previous Tuesday, that still doesn't happen until, that review doesn't happen until Monday. So every Monday that happens. And then those rosters are provided to counselors, and counselors can reach out to those students and say, we need to make you aware that, so this doesn't happen in the lunch line. I know years ago, there were stickers, or stamps, and you got a stamp on your hand that said, hey, you have a low lunch balance. We don't do that. This happens privately. It's a conversation that gets to happen between the student and the counselor, or potentially a counselor and the family. So then these accounts, once those rosters are run that Monday, we run into what I call a grace period. So between that Monday and the next Monday, there's a grace period. So again, another 5 meals likely in which nothing happens, nothing changes. You're given grace. You're given time to address a negative lunch balance. On Monday, the following Monday, in the in-between, you are communicated with by food service. That might be a text, it might be a notification, an email, or phone call. It really depends. But there is notification of the process, how you can pay that balance. So if a family is not paid by the next Monday, that's when that special fund, the counselor's fund, is utilized for a couple of days. Again, it engages the counselors and the family to say, hey, we have a negative lunch balance. This is the process. We need to get this taken care of. And so again, there's another few days in that special lunch fund that's accessible and determined by counselors. Counselors make that call and they say to food service, this family is covered. These bills are covered. And so throughout that process, then if that still has not been paid and you're at that negative threshold, so now there's 5 options that exist for families. One, the obvious one, is make the payment in full. We have a $30 below, you pay that $30 and you're good. So that's one solution. 2 is to set up a payment plan. And between food service and Shelley Mack, if you visit with her, she will tell you exactly the same thing. We make any plan work as long as there's fidelity to the plan. It doesn't matter how much it is. You can have a $200 negative lunch account and you're willing to pay $1 more than what is needed for the lunch in that week or that month. You make $1, that's enough. Any plan is going to be good enough for us. And if you can't make it work that month or that week, you make a phone call to the food service, they're going to make it work. Shelley has such compassion, and she wants to make sure that she cooks. If you know cooks, my mom, her love language is food. And that's what cooks do. Their love language is food. And they want to make sure that they provide for people. And that's Shelley too. And so any plan is going to work for us. So that's option number 2 is a plan. 3, pack a lunch from home. That's always an option that families have. 4, something that people don't think about is pay cash at the till. It doesn't matter what your lunch account is. You pay cash, you're always able to be provided that lunch that exists, the hot lunch. So paying cash, doesn't matter if your balance is $150 in a negative balance. You pay cash at the till, and any option is available to you. And the last one is accept the option of an alternative meal. And generally that is a cheese sandwich, a banana, and milk. So that is the alternative meal. And they're all important. But I want to draw attention again to the payment plan and the cash options. Those are, for those families that are struggling, that's probably the best plan that exists for them, is to either just make a plan with Shelley and hold true to it, or to bring cash. Those will always work. So context matters, and so what's the current reality? And I think sometimes when we talk about alternative meals and this kind of process, there's some myths that exist that this happens very frequently, and it really doesn't. And so I asked Shelley to run some numbers, and from the beginning of the school to the end of November, the district served 126,003 meals in that time period. And we have one alternative meal that's been accessed during that time. So out of 126,003, one is alternative. Again, the belief is that that is a much more pervasive situation than it really is. And what's happening is you have a lot of counselors doing a lot of work, making a lot of great connections with families. You have cashiers that are notifying people, and you have Shelley Mack that is creating plans for families that need it. And so I think there's a lot of really positive things. And again, what I think this shows is that our community cares an awful lot about kids, and cares an awful lot about making sure that kids get all of the things that they need to be successful in school. But I think it is important that we recognize the process that does exist, what we really see that happens, and then there's the why. Why did we make this change in the first place? Before we implemented this process, what the board would do every June is to zero out those balances. And so out of the general fund, we paid, in the first year that I was here, the month before I started, that was about $10,000 that the district paid out of the general fund to cover the costs of overages in accounts. So in October of my first year, those balances were already over $13,000. So already more in October than they were at the end of the year. And so that precipitated a lot of these changes, and we really felt like we needed to look at the process and how we do that. And so I can say every year since this process has been in place, the balances are closer to around $3,000. And the other byproduct of that is the account balances themselves are so small that they can be carried over to the next year instead of zeroed out. Now, we can still use that counselor fund to support families, and I know Shelley has already looked at doing that for this year. If there are families that can't afford that balance, we use the counseling fund and we say, okay, this account is $65, it could be $650, the family just can't afford to pay for it. And it doesn't matter how much it is, they couldn't afford to pay for it. And so then we use that counselor fund to support those families, and those we zero out. But what we found was when that was a $10,000 balance, it was a lot of examples of people that could pay. They just didn't. And then the district zeroed them out, and they started at zero, and they didn't, to be honest, didn't even realize they had negative accounts. And so this process has worked. It's worked because the district isn't infusing general fund dollars into that to pay those balances off. Those are small enough that they can be addressed by those families. And then the third prong is that there is a fund that supports those families that really have a true need. And so as a general rule, I would say you can look at this process and say it's been done well, it's been administered well, and it's working.
Heidi?
That was a lot of good information. So students will always get fed. They almost always get the hot meal one way or another through that process. On a very, very rare occasion, they may get an alternative meal, which is still a sandwich and a banana and some milk, and students are always fed, right? Is that correct?
It's correct. No student is denied a meal. The alternative meal is something that we go through a lot of checks and balances, a big process to ensure that we don't want that to happen. But occasionally it does. In a very, very rare instance, again, in the example of this year, 126,003 times, and it happened one time. So I think that shows the process is working, that the checks and balances exist, and that counselors, food service, the cashiers are all doing their jobs to make sure that it doesn't happen.
Jason?
Well, the part of this process that my favorite part of it is when the counselors step in and make family contact, okay? And I don't know if this ever happened, but have we seen a change in the number of free and reduced applicants since we've involved or taken over this or implemented this process?
It's a great question. I don't know if we've seen a significant change. We don't know what wouldn't happen, but we do know that food service, whenever anybody makes a plan, that's one of the first questions they ask. Have you gone through the process for free and reduced? And it is on the forefront of Shelley's mind when she has conversations with families, is that they are filling that information out. And so it is one of many different strategies that they utilize to support. But have we seen a huge difference? I'm not entirely sure because I don't know who would have applied otherwise. But I know that it is a significant strategy that they utilize for all families.
Well, the counselor fund couldn't happen without community support, so we do appreciate the community support so that when we do find families that just need some help for the time frame, we are absolutely able to do that. And so we do thank the community for their support. And so if you were to look at this policy online really quickly and see the 15, does it go through all of these steps of what happens online for a person if they were curious about what our policy is for this?
The protocol is a little, it doesn't have all of these steps.
Yeah.
If you look at it, it's just like any policy that's enacted. It's written in a general frame, and then you have protocols and procedures that address. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to provide a board education on it, because it does, in a better way, outline the process. And I think it does lend itself to some misconceptions. Mm-hmm. And I think again, just to reinforce, the counselors in food service, Shelley Mack as a director, they really do a wonderful job of making sure that this policy works well.
Yes, thank you. Heidi, did you have something else?
And just if people would like to donate to the Counselors Fund to help students pay for their lunch bills, they can just call the central office, right, and they'll get directed to food services to make that happen.
Either to food service, Shelley Mack, or to Sally Ost, the business manager. Either one of those could help to make that happen.
Thank you. So moving on in our agenda, we have nothing under old business, so we'll move into new business. We have nothing under activities or buildings and grounds. We do have something, item number 3, curriculum assessment instruction, the JHS JCCTC course changes. Dr. Leck or Mr. Gaylor?
Well, they exist. You've seen them, and I don't know if there's questions that we can answer. If you'd like, I'd be happy to do that.
Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Gaylor or Dr. Leck? Oh, Dr.
The
Leck?
only thing I would add in here, and I think I referenced it in my board report related to these course changes, but some of the course change names that you see for CTC are directly related to what Mr. Wagner has already brought up in that they were suggestions in the visioning process that we update, kind of modernize that language.
Okay, with that, anything? All right, can I have a motion to approve the course changes? Motion by Heidi, second by Jason. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, telephones. And now we'll move on into finance. We have we need to do an approval to submit the UND Aeronautics grant of $5,000. Motion by Heidi. Second by Jason. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So we will move into, we have a general balance sheet. And Sally, is that for our information? Do you have anything for that?
Information, unless someone has questions.
And then we'll move into our monthly financial report. Can I have a motion to approve the monthly financial report?
So moved.
Motion by Jason, second by Heidi. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have nothing under personnel, So moving on into policy and procedures, I'd like to group all of those policies and procedures this evening. So can I have a motion to approve the review of the co-curricular extracurricular scheduling regulation, ABAB-AR, and approval of the first reading of the records retention, ABCD policy, and the subsequent retention schedule of ABCDE1, and the approval of the animals in the district schools in curricular programs, ACBC policy?
So moved.
Motion by Roger, second by Jason. Any discussion? Jason?
I do have a question or two on the animals. The requirement will still be the safety in, all the shots and all the, and then, because, I'll be honest, I take our dog up to Louie and every other weekend the kids read to her. She'll still be able to do that, I'm assuming. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that it was not just for therapy dogs or just for animals that meet the therapy qualification, that there still could be other visitors.
Dr. Leck?
So the policy is just amended from the existing policy, and it's inclusive then of therapy dogs, recognizing that the therapy animals have certifications, they have trainings, there are regulations that govern, and so the policy is the same. It's just been added to delineate the difference between a therapy dog.
Heidi?
I think this is a great thing. I think the students will love it. I just only think a couple things. I guess it would be just interesting to see how it goes and maybe get a report. But what about the students with allergies? That would be my main concern with the types of dogs and the allergies kind of thing.
So one part of the application that's not in here is the level of communication that would need to happen with home, and maybe that would be a good reason why we should bring Mr. Romans in and have him talk a little bit about that process. But communication is a big piece. So we're informing people, hey, this is happening, that this is an opportunity, and then we go from there once we hear the communications from families. But obviously a significant allergy may limit the opportunity in that building. Obviously safety and health first.
And would it be the building principal that would be making sure that all of the certifications are up to date, not the direct person in charge of the therapy dog?
That would apply through the district. They'd have to apply through the district, and that's how that process would start. Building principal would of course be responsible for the day-to-day aspect of that, but that would be on a regular rotation with the animals that we've been, or the individuals that have expressed interest. Those are staff members too, and that are well aware of the certification regulations of therapy animals.
Jason?
And the liability is always on the person and not the district, correct?
Correct. It's outlined in the policy, directly stated in the policy, that liability falls on the owner of the animal.
Any other questions or discussions? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
It's just so quiet, you don't even do it.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on into tuition, again, I'd like to group these together. Can I have an approval for a tuition agreement of a ninth grade student to attend Montpelier Public School, and then another ninth grade student of Jamestown to attend Montpelier Public School, and 2 tuition agreements for pre-K students to attend Montpelier Public Schools?
So moved.
Motion by Jason, second by Heidi. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on into other, we have some information on the election timeline. Sally?
In June of 2020 is the election, which will be conducted with this, Stutzman County. And I'll review this memo and we'll have updated information in January, but the following board members' terms expire in June of 2020. Roger Hout, Diane Hansen, Jennifer Schmidt, and Steve Veldkamp. So an election will be held on June 9th to elect one representative from the rural Jamestown Public Schools and 3 representatives from the city of Jamestown. The application deadline to file the intent with the business manager, myself, of JPS, has to be received by 4 p.m. on April 6th of 2020. And then 2 days later, April 8th, there'll be a drawing for the name placement on the ballot that will be conducted in the central office conference room at 4:15. Okay, and then June 9th is the election. In January, there's timeframes of when you can submit the application, and I will bring that forward to the board. And other information that is just law of when we can place the notice in the paper. There's so many days and that type of thing. But we wanted to get this information out to you.
Thank you. So then moving on, under other, we have letter B, the approval of the school calendars for the 2020-2021 school year and the 2021-2022 school year. Have a motion to approve? Motion by Jason.
Second.
Second by Roger. Any discussion? Yes, Jason?
I just have a general question. Are we looking at like start times and end times consistent with previous years? No major, because I see like August 11th, we start with new staff, and then 17th would be all staff in services. Is that generally, yeah, that would be general. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, so the times are, this should just be the calendar. It's not start times in terms of the day, but really pretty consistent for the most part with what we've done in the past. And just so everybody is aware, this is driven by a committee of staff that meets once every 2 years. I create a template, and then we start to move things around from there. There's lots of different kinds of input meetings. As I tell the teachers when we get to this process, sometimes when you have a collection of stakeholders, your role is to get feedback. Sometimes it's just to give some recommendations, and other times it's to make the decision. This is a time when this is a committee that makes the decision. I tell them, we want to build this together, and we need your input to do this the right way. And so they come to consensus. That group is all based on consensus. Does everybody get exactly what they want all the time? Not really. There has to be give and a take. But that committee makes this recommendation. So I bring it to you, but that's actually been a decision that's been made by a number of teachers that are representing their buildings.
Thank you for that, Dr. Leck, and I would like to commend the committee. The schedules are looking very consistent from year to year, and the couple of weeks break during the holiday season, I have heard good things about that from people. They appreciate that, but also the year, it doesn't seem to be extending too much. So thank you to the committee. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Are there any items for the future agenda? We would like to hear from Mr. Romans with the therapy dogs. That would be appreciated. Moving on into meetings to be scheduled. January 26th, in the district office conference room, we'll be having our school board retreat. The Dollars for Scholars will meet on Monday, January 13th at noon in the district office conference room. The Health Insurance Committee meeting will be on Monday, January 13th at 3:30 in the district conference room. And then we will have another school board meeting on Monday, January 20th at 5:15 here in the middle school Thompson room. If you could please remember to right-click and do your monthly superintendent evaluation, that would be greatly appreciated, and also to do a right-click on the adjournment button. In addition to that, however, we have been asked to do that 15-20-minute survey, and I will ask the central office to also put out a reminder email for us to complete that before the end of the year. With that, if there's no other items, meeting is adjourned.